Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Infinity, and this is Magnetize Yourself, where we talk about life, love, spirituality, and of course, the law of attraction. So in today's video, we are going to be doing a collective reading and energy update for our beautiful collective here on YouTube. There is so much that I want to talk about today with all of you, and I am really curious to know your thoughts on this as well, because I've seen a lot of people online and even many of you in the comments section speaking about how there's been this palpable energy shift recently, and many people have been attributing this to us shifting from the year of the snake into the year of the horse beginning on February 17th. So we're still in that final push of the year of the snake, and there's sort of this final shedding of our skin that is happening here spiritually and metaphorically. And at times it's been really painful and really confusing, and it's surfaced a lot of emotions. And I'm hearing something about burning away. It's like those parts of us that once served us, that were once almost like training wheels to our evolution, are being burned away. They're being removed. And there is this sense that a shift that has been happening in us for a while, that's been taking place at least over the last year, but for many of us, it's been building so much longer than that. There's a sense that that shift is becoming more solid now and more stabilized. And so it's reaching this point where we cannot return back into our old systems. And the sense that I kept picking up on here is that it's almost as though we were using training wheels for a while, to go back to this training wheel metaphor. And training wheels are really supportive if you're just learning to ride a bike. However, they will limit your speed once you gain your balance. And so the things that are falling away from our life, those training wheels that are being removed, are actually helping us to accelerate. But we can't lean on what is no longer there, available to support us in the same way. So if we start to try to lean on our old training wheels, our old mechanisms, our old ways of doing things, just like if, of course, you're riding a bicycle and you think you still have training wheels, so you kind of like lean both directions, you'll topple over on the bike. However, if you really lean into that new state, or that bicycle, so to speak, without the training wheels, and you trust that you've learned how to gain your balance, you will find that you can actually move forward with much greater speed and momentum. And so there's actually a potential for quantum acceleration that is taking place here, but it's requiring a massive amount of self-trust. And so I've been doing this thing in recent reading videos where I've been letting the content and the energy of the reading inspire new subliminals that I am then going to create for all of you and put into my app. And today, after I do this recording, I'm going to be doing a lot of subliminal creation, opening a lot of different energy portals essentially through these subliminals that you can use as a tool for your own transformation and to work with this energy. And so I didn't even think of doing this before I started the recording, but as I said those words, quantum acceleration, I realized that that would make an amazing name for a new subliminal in the app. So that is another one that I'm adding to my list of ones that I'm going to be creating. But also, you'll know if you tuned into my last reading that another one I'm working on is deepen self-trust and amplify intuition. So these are going to be really, really powerful for you at this time if you'd like to work further with this energy, because the number one key that seems to be coming up here is it is so important that you trust yourself so deeply, because you are walking a very unique path right now and you know how to do this. it's funny, I feel like the words coming through are you know more than you think you know, which kind of reminds me of a love reading that I did a long while ago. I would say at some point in 2025, maybe in the spring. And it was called They Know More Than You Think That They Know. And I think it was like around April of 2025. I don't know if that month or time frame is significant to someone, but I also am wondering if something about that love situation is going to be coming up, if that reading did connect for you a long while ago, or that thread of energy somehow relates to you. I did not intend for this necessarily to be a love reading, but I feel there's some thread of energy coming through there. But anyway, these new subliminals that I'm going to be working on, I also will be adding to a new thing I'm going to do in the app, which is I'm going to make something in the app called a collective playlist, and I'm going to update it on a regular basis as I feel inspired. And it's going to contain subliminals that I feel are most relevant to our specific collective right now for working with a lot of the different energies that have been emerging in these readings, and to help us kind of shift and align our own energy based on what's been coming through the recent collective readings, so that for those of you who use the app, you can have this kind of like this space within the app where you can see the subliminals that might be very relevant to energies that you're dealing with right now, and have them very easily accessible if you'd like to add them to your own playlist or anything like that. So that is something I will be working on adding soon as well. But for those of you who don't have the app already, if you would like to get the app in the app stores, you can find it searching Sound and Soulful. But I'll also leave a direct download link to it underneath this video in the description box. And I will update that description box as well once all of these subliminals that I've been working on are created and added to the app. So that's just something I really felt inspired to share. So let's talk about you knowing more than you think you know, and this idea of amplifying your self-trust. Because what I'm getting is that for a while, you've been gaining your balance and you've been learning what works for you, that there are certain tools or ways of doing things, ways of operating that work for you. And yet they aren't really explainable to other people. They aren't really measurable, although I'm hearing you've been slowly learning to connect the dots. Like you've been noticing, okay, when I operate in this way, I build a kind of momentum that starts showing up in positive ways in that way in my life. But it's not a simple equation. It's not like put in X, get out Z or something. I'm not the best at math, but you know what I mean. It's like you have to trust yourself. And I feel almost as though there's been this part of you that is seeking someone to validate you, or someone to validate your methods, or to say, yes, that's the way to be walking forward, the way to be doing things, because what you're doing has never been done before. So it's natural that you would seek this external sense of confirmation or security. But I'm hearing the only real external confirmation that you need is that you already know what you're doing. If you would only trust that within yourself. And again, it's not going to make logical sense. It's not going to look linear, but I'm hearing that the more you trust yourself and allow yourself to walk your own unique path, the more you're going to build an energetic momentum, and the more you're actually going to see these moments of physicalized, like physical manifestations of that quantum acceleration, to get back to that keyword that we're talking about here. But the thing about quantum acceleration is it's not linear acceleration, it's quantum. So it's literally moving. I see like one of those exponential growth curves that doesn't make logical sense. It's not like a straight kind of diagonal line, you know, like a linear line. It's like this exponential curve. So the energy that you're working with right now, and really that we're working with collectively, is actually opening the way for quantum acceleration, for you being able to grow at an exponential rate, whatever that growth means for you. I mean, we all have different goals, dreams, desires, visions, ideas, definitions of our own growth, but whatever that looks like for you, however you define that, I feel you're in this space where that exponential growth in those desired directions is more possible and accessible for you than ever before in the past. But there's also this scary element of things being very unknown because this energy has never been worked with before. And because those training wheels, those old systems, ways of doing things that looked more linear and predictable are being, like, in a way, ripped away from us. But it's actually a positive because it's forcing us to rely on ourselves. And I'm hearing to feel your way through the dark, but to realize you're not really in the dark because you're using your intuition to guide you. I'm hearing something about like echolocation, how bats use echolocation to be able to navigate in dark spaces. And it's almost like you are, oh, wow, that feels like a powerful breakthrough for someone. I got a wave of chills. It's like you're using echolocation, but with your energy, where you are sending out a signal and receiving a response back that lets you know where you are in comparison to where you're trying to go. But you don't get to visually look at it and like measure it and have this clear perception of it. You have to rely on shifting the signal that you are emitting and listening for that feedback response, and then trusting that to guide you, even though it feels invisible and maybe imperceptible and unmeasurable. You still have to rely on that kind of energy guidance in a sense. So that signal is whatever you are emitting through how you are aligning yourself. And that looks different from person to person, but there are certain things that you do or certain ways that you shift your energy that other people may not understand, and that at times even your own conscious mind won't understand. But those methods are so essential because that is actually you using your echolocation, so to speak, in this kind of funny metaphor. And you're shifting that signal that you're emitting and then feeling or hearing that feedback response. And I'm getting that you can feel it within yourself as like a dissonance or an alignment. So you can sense whether you're moving in your desired direction, because when you shift that signal, you get a signal back that tells you like, okay, I feel like I am more fulfilled, like I'm more connected to my heart and to my soul. I feel like I'm living more authentically. And those are your signs of confirmation that you're actually on the right track when it comes to connecting yourself in with this exponential growth curve, so to speak. The sense I get about this energetic space we're stepping into is there's something kind of wild and untamed about it, because it's not meant to be tamed or controlled from that logical perspective. It's meant to be moved with. It's untamed in the same way that the ocean is wild and untamed, and yet so beautiful. And it's about learning to ride the waves here of the ocean, because of course the ocean can't be controlled. And in the same way, the energy of this space that we're stepping into as a collective really can't be coerced or controlled or like manipulated. It has to be allowed, and like a current or like a wave. And we have to learn how to release that resistance within ourselves to come into alignment and to float on the waves. But once we do that, we actually will find that we tap into this, again, like a quantum acceleration, a momentum that we didn't have access to in the past that can carry us further, like riding a wave and letting it effortlessly carry you further and further on a surfboard or something. That's kind of what we're doing with this energy. We're not trying to control it. We're trying to get into the current of it and let go, meaning let go of the resistance, float on the waves, and let it carry us in a quantum accelerating kind of fashion. So I want to get deeper into these messages. I wrote so many notes this morning to get into, but I also would like to pull some cards here as well. I do have my coffee, so hopefully you have some kind of warm, comforting beverage or a snack or something like that. So let me take a quick sip of my coffee here. I'm hearing you're felt more than you're seen. You're felt before you're heard. So there's something about how right now your energy is entering rooms before you do. I mean, quite literally, everyone and everything that you meet, that you connect with, it all seems to be meetings that are taking place first energetically. So there's something really powerful about your energy right now. And just like that echolocation, it's almost like you're sending out this signal into places and spaces before you're even there. Now, I am getting this somewhat side message for some of you that sometimes you send out your energy into a space futuristically and you get back a dissonant signal. And that's very important to listen to. So I don't know who this part of the message is for. As I always say, of course, your intuition is your number one guide in this life. And it's really my goal through these readings to help connect you more with that intuitive voice within yourself. But at the end of the day, just like we've been saying through this reading, really, the goal is for you to deepen your own levels of self-trust because you know what you're doing, you know where you're going. That reminds me, I'm going to get back to that love thread, they know more than you think they know, from forever ago. I don't know if that's resurfacing for someone. I'm getting that again. It keeps like nagging or pulling on this reading. So we're definitely going to have to talk about that. But I want to wrap up this thought first, which is sometimes you send your signal into a futuristic space, conversation, timeline, whatever, opportunity, and you get back a signal that feels dissonant. And you're going to notice this becoming more of a conscious ability as you move forward. And this can actually even be a really powerful technique in a way to feel out whether a thing or a person or a timeline is really in alignment for you right now. So, for example, if you are considering saying something in a conversation, because this doesn't even have to be you sending out your energy in the far future, this could be in a conversation. If you're considering saying something, but you're not sure, I want you to imagine saying that thing, like send your energy into that and then feel in your body, in your emotions, what that feedback signal is like. Like, does saying that make me feel lit up and more passionate and more loving and more self-loving and inspired? Or does it somehow deplete me or drain me or make me feel diluted in some way? And you can apply this to anything. Like if you're thinking of going somewhere with someone or you have a plan and you start to kind of think about that plan, but it suddenly begins to feel really heavy for you or really dissonant, that is your intuition speaking to you through you, again, using this kind of echolocation sort of symbolism. You're sending your energy out into that future timeline where you are going to that place or you're doing that event or whatever, and you're getting a feedback signal back in your body that's actually you reading into that timeline futuristically from like an energy perspective. And again, this gets back to trusting yourself and trusting your intuition, because the thing I keep getting about you is like, this is the part of your life where, I mean, your whole life you've been very intuitive. I feel like you've always been someone who is very, very tapped into the spiritual realm. You've always been able to pick up on energies and dynamics, and you've always had this gift. But this is the part of your life where you are really going to start honoring this gift in a different way. And in a way, you're sort of being pushed into this. It might even feel like the universe is forcing your hand at times, like forcibly removing those training wheels and saying, you've got this, trust yourself. You've got this. You know what you're doing. You know how to gain your balance. You've been doing this for a while. You haven't needed these training wheels for a while. So now we're going to be removing them. But there can be that momentary freak out when the training wheels do get removed. Like, oh no, I haven't needed them in a while. But what if I need them in the future? Or what if I want to fall back? I'm hearing something about a fallback plan. Like, you may be telling yourself like, oh, that was my fallback plan. Or like, if plan A doesn't work, I'm going to do plan B. But plan A is what your soul really wanted and what has lit you up. And it's almost like now the alternate plans are being removed. It's like the training wheels are being removed. There is no fallback. There's only you and trusting yourself and keeping your balance and moving forward and allowing this quantum acceleration to build a momentum that propels you forward into the exact things that you've been desiring, but in a very non-linear fashion that is requiring you to trust yourself and to trust your unique processes and ways of doing things. I'm feeling that for some of you, you've been like working with some sort of new system for yourself in a while. You may have ways of doing things you've been developing, whether it's certain routines or rituals or ways that you clear or align your energy. And it's like, these are so unique to you and you've been working with them for a while, but you may feel a little bit shaky now, knowing that you have to fully rely on those things and on yourself, and trust that if alignment comes first, the physical will follow. That if you shift the energy within yourself, the physical will follow suit. And this kind of reminds me of a reading that I did, I think last week, and it was about doing the opposite. And I think the title also said slowing down is rebellion or something like that. And so the sense I get is like the mind or the fear, that panic might be trying to get you to speed up or to like push harder or to move faster. But you're actually being asked to do the opposite, to tap into even deeper levels of ease and peace and flow, to do the opposite of what the fear and the urgency is telling you to do. Because if you feed into the fear and the urgency, it's only going to accelerate momentum in those fearful directions. But if you tap back into peace within yourself, even when the fear is tempting you, then this actually allows you to reverse this whole like fear dynamic and start moving in a powerful kind of alignment. This reminds me of a beautiful comment. I wish I had screenshotted it. I might be able to find the comment if you give me a second. Let me see if I can search for it, because I loved this comment so much. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, I cannot find the comment, but the comment it was about the concept of slack tide. And I thought that this was so beautiful because the commenter was saying that they felt like they were in this period of slack tide in their own life. And something about that really piqued my interest. And I was like, can we dive deeper into what slack tide is? I wasn't even super familiar with it, and also how this could apply here. And so I'm going to read a little bit about this that I feel will really apply to your spiritual journey. Slack tide refers to the short period of time between a high tide and a low tide when the water is relatively still and there is no significant tidal movement in or out. It's the moment when the tide stops rising and hasn't started to fall yet, or vice versa. In more poetic or metaphorical terms, it's the pause between two forces, the in-breath and the out-breath of the ocean. It's a moment of neutrality, suspension, and stillness before the next directional current begins. And symbolically, this can represent a liminal space or emotional pause, a time of non-action between big shifts, a space of integration before new momentum, or a sense of emotional neutrality or floating between phases. It's that quiet middle point where nothing is being pulled, nothing is being pushed, you're just suspended. So I feel that this really relates to what so many of us are going through right now collectively. We're in this moment of slack tide where we are feeling almost like motionless or stagnant, but we also have a sense that we are in a transitional space where we're about to experience like a high tide in a sense. And so we recognize on some soul level that this is part of the process. But there is this fear that comes up in the mind of the non-movement or of the stillness. And once again, the message that seems to be coming through is it's very important to not allow the non-movement to push you into this state of urgency where you start feeling as though you have to frantically work to like fix where you are or to fix something about yourself or your life through heavy action or through force or through burning yourself out, because this is actually working against the current. And I really want to find this in my notes. I told you I took so many notes today. I haven't even really been referencing them, just going off of memory, because there's almost like too much here to even get into in this one reading. But one thing I did want to share is that I wrote down, like any system, if you keep using it after it completes itself, it starts to generate resistance, stagnation, and dissonance. So I also wrote down, you've been recalibrating to a whole new operating system. So you've been in this recalibration phase for a while, but now we're here. Now, again, the training wheels are being removed. And not only will those old systems no longer work, but they may even actually begin to feel like they're working against you or like they're more resistant. And I literally saw in this imagery, you getting this like push from the universe. Like there was this push energy. And the sense that I get is like you are being pushed into what really feels like a void, that non-movement space. And there may be part of you resisting that, but if you trust yourself and amplify that bond of self-trust within yourself, you'll find deep within that what you're being pushed into isn't just an endless void. It's the slack tide. It's the space between everything that came before and the next quantum leap that is going to be taking place in your life. And so it's almost this time of recharge where you're feeling this momentum building within you, but you don't know exactly when it's going to fully take effect or when you're going to really start seeing it visibly in the physical world. And that's where the need for trust really comes in. But also trusting that if you're feeling more peaceful, if you're feeling more in alignment, if you're beginning to tap into that kind of energy within yourself, like the echolocation we talked about earlier, that's your feedback signal that you are on the right track, even if you aren't seeing necessarily the quote unquote physical results happening yet in a physicalized form. So now 26 minutes into this video, I do want to pull some cards to see what wants to come up here. Oh, let's talk about that love situation. I feel that some of you were kind of mentally or energetically requesting that I talk about that. As I say, these readings really are all co-creations. So thank you for the energy that you bring to these readings and to this channel. I am so grateful and appreciative for each and every one of you here, even those of you who just listen silently. Know that even if you're listening silently, your energy is felt and it's being responded to through these readings. So thank you for your presence. Okay, I wanted to say the gift of your presence. So maybe there's something here in general in your life to know about the gift that your presence is to others. I also kept picking up messages about you being a frequency holder for a specific collective, but maybe not even realizing it consciously. So, and I heard something about how when you have a breakthrough within yourself, it's actually a breakthrough for a collective that you might be unaware of. In a way, it's kind of like the concept of light codes, the idea of light codes being a moment of breakthrough or an energy activation within ourselves that causes us to emanate a frequency that helps to tune others to the same breakthrough or helps others to more easily access that same information. By the way, they don't even have to be physically close to us. When you have a breakthrough, even completely alone, when you are like meditating or journaling or just like alone with yourself, that breakthrough is essentially a light code. It's an energy that gets activated in your field, which then emanates outward into the entire collective, into all of collective consciousness. And as a result of that, it allows other people to more easily access the same information or the same breakthrough. And so through you embodying greater levels of joy and freedom and self-love, you are actually creating and emanating light codes that are allowing other people to more easily access that same frequency of joy, peace, self-love, whatever that is for you. So I'm hearing it's time for you to more consciously recognize the value of your inner work or the work that you do when you're alone with yourself. And this might get back to some of those like routines or rituals that could be part of your inner work. But I'm getting that your very existence is like this walking portal of transformation for others, even others that you aren't necessarily physically interacting with, although physically seeing or connecting with or interacting with others can amplify the light code transmission or make them more open or receptive to it. So that kind of presence is very valuable as well. But even without that physical presence, just your existence on this planet in this physical incarnated form, you having those moments of breakthrough, you trusting yourself more, loving yourself more, even if it feels at times like an uphill battle within yourself, know that this work you are doing isn't just for you. It's not just about your personal journey. It's actually transformational on a collective level. You are literally altering the frequency of Gaia, of planet Earth, of collective consciousness through this inner work that you are doing within yourself. because of how you emanate new energies into all of the collective consciousness through these shifts that take place internally. So I'm hearing, do not underestimate the value of this work. In fact, I'm getting it's really your core work in a sense, and everything else that you do or create or pursue in this world is really secondary to that core work. And maybe for some of you listening, this will be inspirational to get back to that core work, that inner work. If maybe you've been second guessing it, or you've been wondering, like, is this really working? Because it's so unique and no one else really seems to understand it and it doesn't make logical sense. But trust yourself and allow yourself to get back to that core of your work, which is the inner work. Because everything, well, on a personal level, your external world, your fabric of reality begins to align itself and conform to that inner frequency cultivated through your inner work. But on a more service-oriented level, like a soul mission level, the energy that you cultivate within yourself naturally emanates to the collective and allows others to more easily access those types of energies and breakthroughs as well. So you're healing collective consciousness through healing yourself internally. And for some reason, I feel that for someone, it's very important for you to consciously know just how powerful and valuable that inner work really is on a planetary level. And maybe you've been second guessing it or doubting it for a while. So I hope that this was a confirmation for someone. Anyway, we got a little bit sidetracked again, but I do really want to channel into this romantic situation. And again, this really seems to go back to a reading that I may have done, I think it was around April. And it was about how someone knows more than you think that they know spiritually about a connection. I can already tell, I feel like we're going to be carrying this into the extended version of the reading, but let's tap into this here. So what is going on? I don't even know what to ask. It's interesting because I feel that reflects in this person's energy. Like they don't know what to say, or they don't know how to reach out to you. There's this feeling of like wanting to say something, but feeling like the words are stuck in their throat or something like that. And maybe you've been feeling that desire that this person has to reach out, but you also know better than to be the one to bridge that gap. Maybe you tried in the past and it didn't work, or it led to further disconnect in some way from this person. And so you have been really respecting yourself and holding your silence in that self-respect. Yeah, with Woman Holding a Heart, I feel like you've really reclaimed some kind of power that you may have given away to this person temporarily, but it's deeper and more nuanced than that. Because how do I explain this? When you met this person, there was, I'm hearing soul chemistry, and I got a wave of chills as I said that. And there's an unfulfilled soul contract here with them as well, still unfulfilled. There's something that still hasn't happened. I'm hearing because of free will, this person may have exercised their own free will to not necessarily fulfill the terms of the soul contract that you have together. But there was instant soul chemistry. You definitely both felt that. But this really reminds me of the reading that I did yesterday. I got this massive download around how you have this, what do we call it? Maybe an ability, but also you can't, it's almost like a necessity for you too, because of how you operate and like the nature of your soul. It's, yes, an ability, but it's also a necessity to like metabolize energy in the moment when something occurs for you. And this allows you to uniquely keep your channel of creativity open, whether you are traditionally creative through something like art or music or dance, or whether you are more channeling that creative energy into something like a career or a family or a home or a business or travel. But regardless, your channel of creativity stays more open when you are metabolizing energy in the moment. Because if you're not doing that, then it's naturally going to get congested in your energy field, which, by the way, most people are walking around with very congested energy fields, but you I feel have just always been someone who lets yourself feel absolutely everything in the moment. You let yourself metabolize every emotion, every energy that comes up for you, even if it looks messy, even if it causes you to cry or to feel things at inopportune moments. You let yourself feel it all, always. And this is a random aside, but a song I could not get out of my head is an Ariana Grande song. And the line from the song was, "I'd rather feel everything than nothing every time." And that line just kept ringing over and over in my head. Like, I'd rather feel everything than nothing every time. And I feel that there was a message in that for you. Like, you allow yourself to feel everything, but most people are numbing out so that they feel nothing. But anyway, that was a little aside. Maybe that means something to someone, but it feels as though you at times have seen this as a curse, because when, for example, if you connect with a soul, well, a physical person with a soul that you have a lot of soul history with, and you feel that soul history, or you feel that there's some kind of soul contract being activated between the two of you, it will bring up a lot of intense emotions that you will feel like instantaneously and overwhelmingly. However, often for the other person, they metabolize energy much more slowly, like most of the collective. So you often feel like you're the one left holding the bag, like you are the one who is feeling everything when you meet someone, but then you metabolize the energy more quickly. What I mean by that is you, yes, go through this messy phase where you have to feel all of it, but eventually you're able to clear your channel. It may take time, but eventually you let yourself feel and process everything and you're clear again. You're back in your power. And I feel like that's where you are now. But for the other person, they've been holding that energy. So it's ironic because I'm hearing the one who has been expressing more of it at this point, in a way, is consciously feeling less of it. And that is you. I know that might surprise someone who's listening, but it's almost like you did feel everything, like a ton of bricks at the beginning of connecting with this person, but you metabolized all that energy. And now you're at a point where your energy is clear. You may still have somewhat of an ache or a longing at times for this person, or you may at times desire to speak to them or to reconnect, sure, but they are actually feeling so much more for you right now on a conscious level because they never processed that energy. They've just been holding on to it and like slowly metabolizing it this entire time, but really more so putting off metabolizing that energy that they've been holding. And I feel like right now it's hitting them even more strongly because on some level they're sensing that you're back in your power, that you've metabolized all of that energy. And so I feel like that's why they're coming up here again in this reading. And it almost took like maybe several weeks or months or years. I mean, depending on the timing of your situation, I feel like it took a period of time for them to realize that they're going to have to metabolize this. They almost just thought it was going to vanish as they were holding on to it and trying to maybe put off metabolizing those feelings. But there's still an open, unfulfilled soul contract here between the two of you. And I'm getting that they're actually feeling it much more consciously now. And on your end, because you're very empathic in general, you're most likely sensing that there has been some kind of shift here, almost like a ripple between the two of you that doesn't really have any, this is the feeling that I'm getting. It's almost like, when this is so niche and specific, but when you get this feeling that a couple has broken up, but they haven't announced it yet on social media, but you feel the ripple, like, there's something going on in that relationship. It's like a psychic hit that you have and you just know. And so you kind of keep at times checking their profile, thinking that there's going to be an announcement or like a breakup, but then they still have all these photos up together and still look very like lovey-dovey. And you think, well, maybe I'm just imagining it. And then inevitably, a few days or weeks or months later, you see that there was actually a breakup. They just hadn't announced it yet, but you could sense the ripple. Maybe that's very literal and specific. If this person we're talking about here is in a relationship or a marriage or something like that, maybe this is literal. Like maybe you're feeling the ripple of them actually disconnecting from that person, but it's not shown yet visibly. But for others of you, this could be just more broadly applied, like you've sensed that there's some kind of change in this person's life and you're feeling the ripple of that, and yet you're not seeing the physical evidence of it yet. I feel like that's kind of the space that you're in right now with this person. So I'm going to go ahead and pause and kind of close out this first reading here, because I do want to get the other reading recorded before noon today. I'm actually recording these readings the day of, so this should be very much feeling like a real-time channeling, although I'm also really enjoying doing live streams. I have done 4 or 5 of them already, and I'm planning on doing one again soon, which I've noticed that when you're subscribed, I think YouTube will like send you an email or something specifically when I go live. But anyway, so I'm going to be continuing this channeling into the extended version of the reading, and we are going to be diving into this romantic situation coming up here, this specific thread of energy. And I really want to take a look at what this person is feeling so heavily, although I feel part of that is kind of becoming obvious just through the channeling, but we will really clarify that. And I'm also really curious about the timeline of things, like, are they likely to move forward in action or to communicate? Because I keep getting that like lump in my throat feeling, like they have something that they want to say that they're not saying. So we'll use that as a starting point for the extended reading. But from there, I'm sure we'll jump into other topics, dynamics, threads of energy that want to come through. I'll keep it pretty free flowing. So if your intuition is calling you to the extended reading, you can get it by clicking the link in the pinned comment or description box. And just so you know, you can listen to my extended readings either through Patreon or through YouTube memberships. And the readings are identical on both platforms. So you can choose according to your preference if you are feeling guided to any of that. And again, I'll leave the link underneath this video. But let's go ahead and wrap things up here. Thank you so much again for your presence here on the channel. I hope that some message here was meaningful for you or helped you connect more with your own intuition during this time that may simultaneously feel very still and also very internally chaotic. So I hope that you are taking care of yourself and remembering to trust yourself. You've made it this far. You know what you're doing. You know how to keep your balance. Trust that you're ready to have the training wheels removed. You're ready for this quantum acceleration taking place in your life. And I would love to be here with you through this journey, through this collective evolution and this moment of acceleration that we're going through. So thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey as well. Have a beautiful day, and I will connect with you here again in Friday's reading.